Welcome to Future Role Model, a podcast that praises the unconventional and redefines what it means to be a role model. And today I'm podcasting from Chicago, from the Moxy Hotel's amazing podcast booth. Shout out to the Moxy Hotel with my amazing guest, Kellye Howard.
Hey, what up, y'all?
Yeah, we're both just sucking down our coffee, sitting in this weird box.
It is definitely a box, literally.
It's so cool, though. Like, they have an actual, at this hotel, I stayed at the hotel last night. Very comfortable, probably showed a lot of things to my there's literally like a 1 foot space between my window and the window of the building next door.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I came back really drunk last night because it was the Super Bowl last night. And so I'm sure a lot of people saw things that they weren't supposed to see.
Does the window open?
It doesn't open, but it's like just one big black glass sheet.
Okay.
It's really sexy, but it's like directly into somebody else's window.
That's funny.
And if you just don't shut the blinds, which I did not do,
you're
exposed.
I wish it opens so you could just reach out and touch someone.
I know. How cool would that be to just shake the neighbors?
Shake hands, like, nice to meet you.
I love how close things. I miss living in Chicago for the proximity of everybody all the time. Like, that's like that in New York too, where just
you're in LA now, right?
Yeah, LA.
Yeah, everybody wants their own space in LA.
Everybody's got to have their own car and everybody's drive. It's why everybody's pissed off all the time, is because nobody can touch another person ever.
Yeah, that's why it's this cloud of smoke just hanging over top of the city too.
It's anger. It's
anger, a cloud of anger.
Well, it's disdain for failed careers, and like that's what
relationships,
the smog is in
hopes.
LA. Hopes and dreams have died,
Clouds
and it turned
of
to
hope.
smog. How are you, Kellye?
I'm pretty good, man. Loving this coffee I'm sipping on right now.
I know. We kind of we're living the dream right now. Did you do anything fun yesterday for Super Bowl?
No, I didn't actually. I did do something fun though.
Yeah?
Yeah, I flew back from Alabama, and because I fly standby, I spent all day at the airport trying to get on a flight.
That sounds so fun.
It was so much fun. It actually was not that bad because I've been flying standby for years.
Yeah.
So I know I got the rhythm of it. I bring more than enough shit to do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think about it. So I'm sitting there writing, and this chick, I guess this was her first time flying standby. So after the first flight she missed, she's at the counter like, can I buy a flight? And if I buy a flight and I get on the next flight, can I get my money back for the flight that I bought? And she's like having a fit.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, sweetie.
Like, woman, you gotta calm down.
Sweetie, this is the process.
How long? Do you have a relative that works for the airlines?
I have a good friend that she just said she doesn't use it, so she might as well help me out in my career and let me use it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and because, you know, people pay like $2,000 for those, which is completely illegal. And so I knew that she worked for a company, and I reached out to her and was like, hey, can I buy it from you? And she was like, I could lose my job, so no, but I don't use it, so yes. And I was like,
have it.
I was like, oh my God, look at God.
So it's like a standby like voucher, or like,
I am her companion. So yeah, I just go in and I book flights, and I can fly wherever they're available.
When I first lived in Chicago, so I used to live here in Chicago, and when I started comedy, one of my good friends, his name was Grant Ryan, doesn't do stand-up anymore, but he was a flight attendant. And
nice.
He had me as his companion, and that's how I was able to kind of get my roots in LA and in New York a little bit before even moving. I flew standby.
Yep.
And then one day he decided to up and quit his job.
Oh.
And it ruined our relationship.
I bet.
We were like, I was like, well, I guess we can't be friends anymore because this was a one-sided friendship for sure.
Oh my God. She's been there since 97. And so I'm always afraid that like something's going to happen. I remember she called me one time and I forgot what she was talking about, but she was like, they put me on leave because I guess she was being absent a lot, and she was like, they put me on leave, I'm on administrative leave, I don't know when I'll be back, but I was still able to use her benefits and everything was still available. And I was like, so are they gonna let you go? She was like, I don't know, but her mom was really sick, which is why she kept missing, which is why she was absent. And I'm like, man, you know, that would be messed up if they fired you because your mom is sick. She's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, man, that'd be messed up if they fired you because I need these benefits too. Like, I mean, I'm sorry about your mama and I'm sorry about your job, but I need you to keep your job.
Yeah, for me. What about me? Kellye.
Yeah, but that was like a year and a half ago. She's good now, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're back.
What were you in Alabama for?
Performing at the Stardome.
Oh, shit.
I love that space.
I've never been to that spot, but I've heard it's really good.
It's like a 700, I think they seat like 650 or 700 people.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is a humongous space, and the stage is huge. It's like twice the size of Laugh Factory stage.
Oh my God.
So that's just a
what
playground
a wet
for
dream.
me. It is a playground. I love it.
Me and Kellye got to hang out a little bit at JFL this year.
We did.
Oh my God, how fun.
You're so studious. You were there taking notes and stuff I was just so proud of you. I was like, look at her living her best life.
I was going to a lot of the pitch because I love watching live pitches. So
that was my first time.
When it comes to pitching, I took a course like 2 years ago when I started creating my own stuff and was like, because I was in the semifinals with NBC's playground competition, and like I had kind of had a lot of these pilots that were doing really well. And I was like, shit, if I'm going to be actually pitching stuff, I better learn how to fucking pitch.
Yeah.
Because it's its own skill.
It is.
Like, whatever you're pitching, if you're, a CEO of some company or blah, 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 like, you have to be so concise and to the point and likable, like, for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not that in the first minute, it doesn't matter how good your shit is.
When I saw them pitches, I was like, oh my God. I was like, I would have never walked into the room like that. I would have walked in like, y'all, I got this idea. I think it's super dope and y'all should invest in it.
Right.
And that would have been it. That would have been like the whole pitch.
Buy my stuff.
Buy my stuff, please.
But the best pitch I did see, do you remember seeing Black Republican?
I don't.
It was
I did leave though.
Dwayne Perkins too. And some other guy. He's not a stand-up, but he's really funny. They had the best pitch I've ever seen in my life. And I just did Dwayne Perkins' podcast in LA a couple weeks ago. And
I didn't know he had a podcast.
He does. He does a movie night podcast with TK Kellye.
Yeah. He was doing it live videos at first. Now he does a podcast.
Yep.
Cool.
And so I asked him. I was like, whatever came about, because they killed their pitch, like killed.
It was at JFL?
Yes. And he's like, nothing happened.
Wow.
And I was like, that fucking sucks.
That's scary.
Their pitch was perfect. I've seen a lot of pitches. I've seen a lot of bad ones. I saw a lot of bad ones even at the festival. A couple that were like...
And then you see them on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like how?
Yeah, because honestly, with some of these people, like... networks just have their eyes set on them, and if they want them to succeed, they're going to make them succeed,
no matter what it looks like,
even if their pitches aren't good.
Yeah.
And I mean, none of the shows themselves were like bad ideas, but there were definitely some pitches that I was like, dude, I would be embarrassed if I came all the way to JFL and that was my that was my spiel.
Yeah. That's messed up, man. With Dwayne, he's such a great writer.
Oh my God, so good.
He's such a great.
So I'm sure it'll happen for him. Bless you.
Thank you.
You always just, I've had so many conversations with people about that, because, all of us are always on the brink of something.
Oh my God.
And, you have so many opportunities.
The brink of failure or the brink of...
Right. Destruction.
The brink of destruction, the brink of suicide, always on the brink.
But, you just hope that when something happens, it's the right time for you.
Yeah, that's why I love people like Leslie Jones. Like, I look up to her so much.
Yes.
Because... she's been doing this stand-up for 32 years. I think she posted on Instagram not too long ago. And that right there, it puts things into perspective.
100%.
I mean, just it really lays it out to say that you don't have to. It doesn't have to look a certain way, which is what today's time make you think. With social media, you're like, oh, if I'm not doing this, then I'm not succeeding. If I'm not doing that, then I'm probably going to get forgotten about. And it doesn't have to look that way. And she's a perfect example of that. And now she's on SNL. It's like,
and same with like Tiffany Haddish. Like I had worked with her for so many years.
Oh God, yes.
And her and I even shot at, there was a studio that used to be in LA. It was called Bite Size Studios. It was really cool. It was kind of like this, but just a much bigger box.
I was going to say, I hope so.
But everything was really cool and like techie, and they had all these different cranes and like really, everything shot there looked so good.
Right.
And I shot a pilot with her. It was like a game show. And had a blast. It was me, her, and I don't remember who the third comic was, but we were like panelists. Nothing ever happened with it. And I remember having a talk with her afterwards. This was like 6 years ago. And she was talking about like, how tough it was, and how it was just like the shittiest year as far as like trying to get shit to actually happen, and she's like gluing her own eyelashes onto her own and then you think back on those moments, you're like, man, you guys, it's just around the corner for all of us.
You know what I love about Tiff is she is so optimistic.
Yes.
I mean, it's sickening how optimistic she
so
is.
kind.
Like, every time because I usually stay with her when I go to LA, and when I would stay at her house, she would just be so positive and optimistic about everything, and I'd be like, how are you not melting in despair right now with this career? But she would always be like, it's cool, you know, that didn't work out, but this is gonna work out. That didn't work out, but this is gonna work out. And she would just keep hustling.
And that's why those people succeed, honestly.
Yes.
Because your energy is infectious.
It is. Law of attraction is real.
And people may not want to say that they want to be around really positive people, but you do.
You do.
Because you notice on yourself when a bunch of negativity is being dumped on you.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you, you know, and that's why I feel like I gravitate towards a lot of people that have good outlooks as well.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, like what you and I were talking about before the podcast, you know, finding ways to make yourself feel the way that you're supposed to feel, which you're really good at doing.
I'm a firm believer too of like energy sources coming together, and so certain energy sources won't even come into my space if they're not aligned with me. So that negativity, if I'm not on that wavelength, I'm not even gonna notice it. You know what I mean? Like, you notice the things that I do, like this little trick where I tell people, I read it in a book, where I tell people to close their eyes, where I tell you to look around, and I'm actually doing it with you right now on the podcast. Why not?
Great.
So I want you to look out here. Look out here, right? Notice everything you see red out there. And you can even look in here too. You can even look at this and notice everything you see red.
Yeah.
You got it?
Got it.
All right. Now close your eyes and tell me everything you saw yellow.
Ooh, tricky.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
You're so right.
You can't do it. You can't, because your focus is on red.
Yeah.
And that is literally how energy works. It's the same thing. When people have this negative energy and that's all they're focused on, people in front of you are going to be driving like assholes. They're driving slow. This lady,
you're looking for it.
You are literally looking for the energy. But when you're positive and you're focused on the beauty of life, that is what you see. And so that negative energy, it like slides right past you. You don't even notice it.
Exactly. Me and Joe, so I podcasted yesterday with Joe Kilgallen, who was last week's episode, and we podcasted for like an hour and 20 minutes, and then we hung out in the Laugh Factory for another like 5 hours. Afterwards we were joking, we're like, we should have just recorded this session, and like
I know, right? The hangout session is always great.
Was so great. But we were talking about just that, because like we were saying how the mentality of certain people, like whether it's trolls or whatever it is, to really actively seek out negative things and try to find, whether it's in the media or on social media, like there are people that try to find the negative things about you. Yeah. And when you're blowing up, when your career is starting to pop, like people will try to find something to not like you for.
Yep.
And it's such a strange thing for me. Like I've never ever actively tried to find a reason to not like somebody.
Well, most people, when they do that, they don't like themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you don't like yourself, it's so easy to find the other things and other people that you don't like, because you're deflecting. You're like, oh, look at her nose. It's because you don't like your own nose. I'm so serious. Like, it so really is. And I've noticed and that's that whole like self-evaluation and paying attention to the way that you think and feel, because when I notice something in someone else that is a negative attribute, I automatically say, Kellye, why are you focusing on this? What is it about you that you don't like, that this person's flaw or whatever you want to call it is bothering you? Why is it bothering you that much?
Right.
And it's hard to face yourself. Most people don't want to do that. That is a difficult thing to do.
That's a very responsible thing that you do.
Yeah, well, I don't drink, so I try to.
You've got time.
I got time to be responsible.
Man, if I think about all the shit, because I already accomplish a lot, I'm like, man, if I didn't drink,
oh God,
I'd be like a
you would
superwoman.
be. You would be.
It might be too much for me.
Because you're so. Oh my God, I look at you sometime online, and I'm like, Natasha, sit your ass down somewhere. Like, and that's me deflecting, because I'm laying down when I'm looking at it.
I think we both. You have such a great hustle, and I love. How long ago was it that I first connected with you? It was at the Laugh Factory doing your podcast.
Yeah, I think it was.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, because Brian connected us.
Yes.
Yep. And that's back when I think it was Kellye Talks.
Yes, it was.
It's been branded 19 times since then. It's crazy. Originally, my podcast was Living with Regrets.
Yeah.
That was the very first podcast. And I was all about like living with kind of a less sexier way of future role model.
I love it.
It was just very direct. Like, what do you hate about your past? Let's talk about how you've lived with it, right?
Yeah.
And it was just too much for people. Most people didn't want to come on there and talk about like really serious things, and that's what I wanted. That's all I ever want to talk about is like serious shit. Heartbreaking shit. And so people would just be like, "No, I really don't want to do your podcast." And so I had to change the name to Kellye Talks. So then it was just like conversations where we talk, and I like bring up. So I'm like, yeah. So I heard you were molested. So you want to talk about that? You know, I was just like,
and people would be like,
no. And then I finally switched it to what it is now, which is Be Less Petty, because then I can just talk about an array of different things, because so many things that we do and think and feel are petty. It's insane.
Yes.
And it's just a great way to just talk about all that same shit and be able to throw in some fun stuff too.
What's the most petty thing you've had to get over?
Get over, or the most petty thing I've done? Because there's some stuff I've done that I don't care about, where I don't have to get over it.
Yeah. I just did what you've done. What you did. What's the petty?
I've done some petty. I've scaled the side of a building before because I knew a guy was cheating on me.
Oh shit.
Yeah, to get up and see it through the window. And I would have made it up through the window had the gutter not detached from the side of the building, and I was like hanging in midair.
Straight out of a sitcom.
I'm telling you, I was hanging in midair. I thought I was gonna die, and I was just like, God, if you get me to the bottom of this gutter, I swear I'm gonna leave this guy alone, because this is his ex-girlfriend's car parked right here. I know that she's up there. Just get me down. And as soon as he got me down, I was ringing his doorbell and calling his phone again, like, open the door. Like I was like, I'm sorry, God, I lied. I lied.
Yeah, I
can't let go.
God knows. God knew you were lying.
Oh my God. So that was one. But I have so many petty stories of things I've done. Like oh my God, I've tracked my husband's phone before when I thought he was cheating on me, which turns out he was.
Shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How long have you been married now?
It'll be 6 years this year.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And he cheated on me in the first year. I was going batshit crazy.
How did you guys get through that?
I'm very optimistic, and I'm one of those type of people that where I look at situations for what they are, and I look at people for who they are. My husband's not a cheater. It was a bad situation. We had just lost our 15-month-old daughter. I was very restricted emotionally. Like I had this you don't understand a mother's mourning kind of attitude. Like, how could you even...
there was a complete disconnect.
Yeah, it was a huge disconnect of like, you can't remotely know what I'm going through. When in all actuality, it was his loss as well. It was our daughter's loss as well. Like, everybody was dealing with this loss. And instead of coming together and dealing with it as a family and talking about it, we just kind of all went into our own individual corners and tried to figure it out.
That's a really fucking hard thing. Like, the loss of a child, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And it was my second child to have passed away. So in my mind, I was like really distraught, because I was thinking, like, the whole time my 15-month-old daughter was going through what she was going through, I was like, God wouldn't take another child from me. Like, that was literally my reasoning.
Right.
No matter how sick the doctors kept telling me she was, I was like, oh, but it doesn't matter. She'll be fine. She'll get better. And that's when I will say optimism failed me, because I was just like, she'll get better. She'll get better. No, I tell you, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. Ugh. And then when it happened, I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like, my whole world was shook up. And so I kind of went into this little work mode bubble where I just was hustling like crazy. We filmed the OWN network literally not even a month after her funeral.
Holy shit.
I hadn't even mourned. You know what I mean? I was just back to the grind.
Going.
And and so I stopped being a wife. I started being a comedian. I started being all about work, all about making it.
You needed something to focus your energy on.
Yeah, all about making it. Like, if I make it, I'll feel better. And that was just unrealistic. And I didn't realize it until I got cheated on. And then that's when I was like, oh shit, the rest of my world is falling apart while I'm chasing this thing to try to get away from this other thing. And yeah,
oh my gosh.
But it was the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me. Like, my daughter passing away literally was the most miraculous thing that could have ever happened to me as an individual, to be able to grow and become the person that I am today and look at the world completely different.
The fact that you can even say that is remarkable.
I'm telling you, it is. I tell people all the time, like, I could have got hit by a semi-truck and been paralyzed from the neck down, and I still wouldn't have gotten the lessons that I got from sitting in that hospital room day in and day out, listening to those machines beep by myself, trying to conceptualize what we were going through. It was a lot of thought, a lot of meditative time to really look at my life in perspective and question some things.
What was it that she passed from?
Well, it was a collective of things. She had non-compaction of the left ventricle cardiomyopathy, which is basically where her heart just doesn't squeeze hard enough.
Okay, so it doesn't pump blood.
It doesn't pump blood properly. And she had multiple holes in her heart, which the doctors basically said looked like Swiss cheese. So not only did her heart not pump hard enough, but when it did pump, the blood was shunt across and go into different places, go into places like her lungs and stuff that where it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And so they had to put like a little band on it to try to get it to go, you know, in the spaces it was supposed to go into.
Thing.
Yeah. And then she got hypertension, and she got placed on a trach. And then they put the band on and she was doing better. They actually said she'd never come home, and she did. She spent her first birthday at home. She spent her first Christmas at home. So beautiful. And we were back and forth a lot of times in the hospital. Helicopter lifts, a lot of crazy stuff. But when they went back and they did the final surgery to remove the band off of her, it's called a PA band, a pulmonary artery band. And she had grown out of it. So she was starting to have a hard time with it. So they needed to go in and cut it. And the holes were small enough in her heart now where, you know, it's like a muscle. So it heals itself almost. So they were small enough where the blood would no longer shunt. But the issue was her heart, the rest of her organs were so used to being very loosely perfused, I guess, you know, just getting barely enough blood that when the actual normal blood flow started to come through, it was too much for her kidneys to handle, and her kidneys failed. So ultimately, the actual death diagnosis was kidney failure. Yeah. She had stopped peeing for, it was like 2 or 3 days, and they put a catheter in her. Nothing was happening. Her belly was really distended, and they just couldn't get it out. And they was like, well, we can do surgery, and they gave me that out. And I was like, bro, she's been through 7 surgeries. She's been through an open heart surgery. She's had 22 blood transfusions. I was like, I'm tired. And that probably was, of all that entire scenario, that probably was the hardest thing, was actually signing the do not resuscitate order. That was the hardest thing for me, is saying, don't save her.
But don't keep putting her through it.
But don't keep putting her through it. And I had to make that decision. It was very difficult. But I looked at those, I mean, being at the Ronald McDonald House and seeing these kids, and no judgment to people out there that, you know, have these children that need 100% of their support. But I look at these kids in these wheelchairs. They have very little quality of life. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, it was a part of me feels like that's a selfish thing to do, to keep this child alive, to make me feel like I have purpose.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's what I think I would have been doing, is like this, I feel purposeful because I'm caring for my sick child. When I'm like, no, this baby has been through it, and I don't see her coming out on the other side in a way that she'll have a great quality of life. And I think it'll also diminish the quality of my life. And I have to consider that, because it is my life too.
Right.
You know, it was hard. That was the hardest thing, is signing that order. But the experience itself, though, is miraculous.
Your outlook on life and all the shit you've been through is just amazing.
Thank you. It's been years. It's so been years of crying, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I probably would have killed myself by now had my brother not done it first. I was like, "You selfish bastard!" Like he I can't put my mom through that. You know what I mean?
Fuck.
Right. I can't. Now I gotta live the rest of this life.
Joke. You stole my joke.
I was gonna do that, and now you did it. You piece of shit. Now I gotta stay alive and just deal with things. Why couldn't you have went to jail? Like, that's what we thought you were gonna end up. How dare you die first? But no, yeah. And so, but I mean, I every time I've ever thought about like killing myself or doing something like that, that was the first thought, is like, how would my mother feel as a parent?
Yeah.
We have 2 children that took their life. And then, I was raised under my mom when she was like on drugs and stuff like that. She's clean now, and she's been clean for 30 years. But it's like, just having it started out like that and raising children under that has to be some type of guilt factor.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want her to, I had a lot of compassion for my mom in a lot of ways, where I was just like, I can't do that. I'd rather fucking fight through it and get my shit together and figure out a way to live this life and try to transform all of these things into something better. Maybe it'll help somebody else that's also out there.
You need to have like a TED Talk one day.
Man, I've been trying. I've submitted. They
really
won't fucking pick me. Ted, are you listening?
Ted, hello. Is it like God, where you just like pray to Ted?
I just pray to Ted. Ted God, please, Ted God. Either that or Richard Brand. Somebody give this woman a platform. Something.
But it honestly is like, you meet so many fascinating people. And I was talking with Joe about this yesterday as well. But like, this is something that I've talked with my fiance about, and kind of the reason why it's been tough for me to want to like dive into this marriage thing and why I keep postponing this wedding, because we meet so many fascinating people. Like, I know
you're like, just in case you're not the best, right? I might end up getting somebody more fascinating than you.
And you always want to just keep a little bit of your options, though, because I know so many fucking awesome people like yourself, or like people that are.
Well, I'm already married. I'm sorry.
I know you're not available. Beating all these odds and like, just staying so positive through all this stuff. I mean, there's just something to be said about being able to find a way to just deal with things and find the good in things.
Yeah, I think it's 2 things you need. You need willingness and grit.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2. Those are the 2 components of like the life, the happy life recipe. I really do think so, because, and I don't even want to say happy, I want to say joyful life recipe, because joy is that underlying thing that doesn't change. You just have that, and happiness is ever fleeting. It's it's an emotion, just like sadness or anger. Some days you're happy and some days you're not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I really think that having the willingness is what's kept me going, is because I'm willing to try new things. I'm willing to change. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to, go places I've never been and explore things I've never explored and learn things that I never thought I could learn. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to try again when I fail at it. And that's the grit part, right? Where you just keep going. And I really think willingness and grit could probably be interchangeable words to an extent. But those are the 2 things that you really do need. It's when you give up and you're like, I can't do this. That's when all of the other negative emotions start to set in, of like, you're a failure. You can't do this. You're worthless. Mm-hmm. What's the point? That's when it sets in, is when you give up on yourself. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I always tell people too, like, because a lot of people are like, oh, you do so much. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. That's true. But also, like, I don't look at it like that, because I look at it like, every month I try to accomplish something significant. Mm-hmm. And even if it's not that significant, I'll give myself a little bit of personal reward for it, because you have to. If you don't pay attention to the little accomplishments that you make along the way, mm-hmm. you don't, all of a sudden years will go by and you won't have realized like, oh shit, I've accomplished like 40 things.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself a lot of credit for those little nuggets along the way.
Little thing. I even say that when people are trying to like do nicer things, right? When they're just like trying to be a nicer person. So they'll put all these grandiose things on their list, like, oh, I'm gonna go, volunteer at a homeless shelter, and I'm gonna go do this. And I'm like, well, or you can just start by letting somebody in when they turn on the turning signal.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You can start by just opening the door for someone you see coming behind you and holding it and telling them, no, you go ahead first.
Yeah.
Or letting somebody at the grocery store that has eggs and some bread go in front of you and you got a cart full of shit. Mm-hmm. It's simple stuff like that builds up to being a nice person. It doesn't have to be this grandiose act of like, I went and saved 1,000 kids today. It's
right.
like, yeah, that's most people won't be, and you can't even sustain that. You know what I mean? You can't sustain that behavior if that's not naturally who you are.
I mean, none of us have those kind of resources either.
Exactly.
Like, Beyonce does, and she's busy. She's too busy to be doing that shit.
Exactly. She pays people to go do her volunteer work for her.
She's like, here's $1 million. You go do it.
You go do it. That's hilarious.
You grew up here in Chicago, right?
Harvey. Same difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same
it's
difference.
the south suburb of the area.
So what was your upbringing like here?
So what do you mean? Like my house within my home, or
within your home? Did you have siblings?
I did have siblings that I didn't live with. So my mother, like I said before, she was on drugs at the time. So my mom lived with her mom, and my brother lived with her, and my younger sister lived with her. Mm-hmm. My mother took me, so I lived with my paternal grandmother.
Got it.
Yeah. And in that house, it's very interesting because it was a 2-flat house, but it was a lot of us in there. It was me, it was my cousin Craig, Don, Paul, Dee Dee, my aunt Deborah, Greg.
You were like crammed
I swear
in
to
that
God,
place.
it was so many people. It was a 4-bedroom, but it was like 13 of us in that house. It didn't make sense to me, but at the time it did, because I was a kid and I didn't know any better. It was just like, I have all my family here. Mm-hmm. They're all here. And I was the youngest. So I just basically play with myself a lot. I play with my imaginary friend from the broom closet, which is probably why I have such a vivid imagination, because I wrote a lot of stories, and I would set my little Barbies up and my stuffed dolls, and I would like read them stories, and I just would have like this performance time.
Solo show.
Yeah, all these solo. I swear to God, I had so many solo shows. I've probably written like 50 solo shows before I was even 10.
I hope you have home footage of some of this stuff.
I don't.
You need to like play.
I don't.
You need to track down something so you can play it on your next special.
I wish my family gave that much a fuck about my performances to have some footage.
I know.
They were too busy off being the adults. Yeah.
We didn't ever own a video camera. We weren't like that rich.
We didn't either. I remember when we got a computer and I would play Frogger. Like that was my like game. Is Frogger, like jumping over those logs. It was amazing.
Yep. I had an old school Nintendo, and that was all I ever had. I didn't have the Nintendo 64. I just had the regular old Nintendo.
Old Nintendo.
But as a kid, you don't even notice.
You don't.
Like, okay, this is just what we don't have. You don't notice what you don't have.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I was considered like the rich kid, being in this house with these so many people, right? Uh-huh. I was considered the rich kid because my grandmother made all my clothes, so I always had like cute matching outfits on. She would sew my clothes.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had like a lot of Barbies. She would buy me all the like toys I wanted because I was the youngest. I was a baby of the house. Mm-hmm. So when Christmas time came around, I would get the big Barbie house and the cars, and I would have friends that, had multiple siblings, and they would get like one Barbie apiece.
Yeah.
So I looked rich because I got 3 Barbies this Christmas.
Right.
Like, Kellye get all the Barbies. She got a Ken too.
I wish currency worked in Barbies.
Oh,
like if I had like 5 Barbies as an adult and was able to just buy a house with that, like how fucking awesome would that be?
I would have saved all my Barbies.
Barbie currency.
Yeah, but so I was considered like the rich kid, but at the same time it sucked for me because I found myself having to prove that I was like not that great of a kid. You know what I mean? Like, if that make any sense. I was like, I'm a bad kid. I'm a rough kid. And so I took on this very bully, rough, negative mentality.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, I was a bully all throughout high school.
Oh,
I got
like
kicked,
what? What
I
did you do?
Kicked out of 2 high schools.
Oh my God. In Chicago, that's tough to do.
For fighting. And
did you pick fights, physical fights, or would you like pull hair?
I picked fights, like physical fights. Like I wanted to fight people. I always was angry. I was always cursing out teachers. Like, bitch, what you gonna do? Like I was so aggressive toward. I feel so bad for teachers now because when they have to deal with kids like me, like I mean, it's just the kids are hurting. The kids are neglected. The kids they literally have no guidance, and that's what they're doing. They're acting out. They want attention. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now looking back on that, I can see that that's what I was doing. But I just hate that teachers nowadays even have to deal with that because these kids just need some love.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was a bully. I that's probably one of my most regretful things of like my childhood is that I was a bully.
I
hate that I was a bully.
It's just surprising because you couldn't be more opposite of that now.
Oh God.
Which gives me hope for a lot of like children I know out there, including my little cousin who's just an asshole.
Yeah, he might get it together.
He might turn get that shit around.
He might, yeah. I wish I could find like the people that I bullied and just apologize and hope that they're living a better life, because that shit really does affect people. When you bully them at that young of an age, they do grow up to like, have that just in them, like those emotions of like, they deserve to be treated that way, you know, and they become these adults that aren't emotionally intelligent, and they, spew that out on other people or their children, or they allow other people to bully them as adults. And it's just like, I would hate to have contributed to somebody's life like that. Yeah.
Do you feel like, did that come from something? Did you have like frustration in your household? Or
Yeah, it was a lot of anger. My grandmother is God bless her soul. I love her birthday was actually yesterday. Rest in peace. She was a beautiful woman. She had good intentions, but I mean, back then, a lot of families, especially, I don't want to say, broken, Black families had to survive, and it was more of this survival energy of like, I'm tough. You're not gonna break me because I'm tough. And my grandmother had this very aggressive, tough mentality. And so you came in her kitchen with your shoes on. Get the fuck out of my kitchen with them goddamn boots on. Like that was her all the time. And that's what I remember the most about her, is like this aggression,
like fiery, this
very fiery aggression. And I embodied a lot of that. And then it was a lot of fights in my house, like physical fights. People would, instead of just saying this was wrong, it would be like, you did this to me, punch in the face. And now it's like this huge brawl in the middle of my kitchen. Yeah. And like I saw that a lot, more than once. And so it was something that I grew up seeing, is like, you deal with emotions through anger. You deal with anger via fighting. Yep. And so it just became a habit for me to treat people like that. And now looking back, after I've started to take control of my habits, knowing that these are things that you can change, I hate it. Like even when I get mad at my husband or I yell at my kids, I'll be like, oh, why did I do that? Right. I should be smarter about this, but I forgive myself.
You're still a person.
I'm still a person. Yeah.
You're allowed to do.
But it's like, I hate it so much because it just reminds me of being that kid, you know what I mean, that had to see that and deal with that and not have control over saying, hey guys, could you stop, because this is really gonna fuck with me as an adult. You know what I mean? Like,
can you imagine if a kid had that much wherewithal?
Oh God.
Like,
oh God.
Yo,
I know you guys are angry, but let's sit down and discuss this.
In 10 years, I'm gonna be in traffic freaking out because of this moment. So can we just not right now?
Exactly. Yes.
What was the worst fight you ever got in, or the worst fight you ever picked?
The worst fight I ever picked was with this girl named Abimbola.
Bimbola?
Abimbola. Don't make her fun of her name. She was African. So you was about to. I saw it. I saw it in your eyes.
Because the name. I was like, no, please no.
I saw it in your eyes. Yeah. And this is how I know this is an African name, because years later, I got an assistant to help me work on some social media stuff, and her name was Abimbola, and she was African. And it brought back too much memories. I fired her after like the first 2 weeks. I was like, I can't work with you. I can't. I'm not ready to deal with this part of my life yet. But Abimbola was her name, and I remember her. She was a big Black woman, like a big Black girl. Probably like if you were to have to imagine what she looked like, think Leslie Jones. Think like this big Black woman that was too big for like surrounding people. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and so
stuck out.
Yeah, and so we're in 7th grade. She's this big girl, probably like 6 feet tall, right? I'm like 5'5" or something like that, right? And it's after school, and I'm talking shit, and I'm like, won't you fight me? She won't fight me, by the way. She would not fight me. She was walking away. I walked 2 miles out of my way to follow her home, right? And the whole school is behind us because I'm trying to pick this fight, and I'm like throwing rocks at her. I'm calling her all kinds of bitches. I'm like, fight me, turn around. You scared? And I'm talking shit, and she won't fight me. So I picked up like a kind of like a brick, like a rock brick. Yeah. But it wasn't really a rock. It wasn't really a brick, kind of like if a brick and a rock had a baby. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a Brock. A Brock. So I picked up a Brock. There's men out here with that name, sadly. So I picked up a Brock. And
Chad and Brock.
Chad and Brock. Cousins. And I threw it at her, and it hit her in the back of the head. And I guess that was it. That was the draw, right? For her. And she turned around and literally punched me in the top of the head. That was the end of the fight. That was the end of the fucking fight. She punched me in the top of the head, and I was just like, why would you do that? Right. And it hurt so bad. And I just like tried to like fight back, like swinging. And she just like held my head. You know, have you ever been like, you seen a kid where a big guy would just like, all right, chill out. And they'll hold their hand out and like hold their head back while they're swinging. Yeah. She like did that to me and was like, I don't want to fight you. And she's just like, I don't want to fight you. And just kept saying that. And I was just like, what the fuck? And she was just so cool about it. And then the next day at school, everybody was like, damn, a bimbola whooped your ass yesterday. Damn. And I was like, yeah, I got my ass whooped. I don't even want to fight her no more. In fact, I want to be her friend. I want her as my bodyguard.
I feel like her name fits her. Wherever she is in the world, like she's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing.
I went looking her up on Facebook recently. I was like typing in her name. I couldn't remember her last name. I just looked up all the bimbolas and I was like, that kind of looked like her. And she looks fairly happy. I'm happy for this person.
Oh my God. And did you do anything other than that rebelliously? Were you just a fighter or did you party at all?
I didn't really party as much. I mean, I did school a lot. I did a lot of stealing. I would go to the grocery store and steal. I would steal out of people's gym lockers because that was the best time. It was like they would go to gym and they would hang because you couldn't wear jewelry and shit in gym. So you take off all your Christmas necklaces and all of that. And me and my friend, it was me and two other friends. I'm not going to say their name because I just don't want to put them out there like that, you know, and we would go in gym lockers and we would just steal shit. And it was fucked up. Oh God, I was a shitty person. Like this is why I worked so hard at like being better. Because I was such a shit kid. I really was. But yeah, we would steal stuff out of people's lockers. We would also ask people for dollars. And they would always give it to us, I think because we were just bullies. And we were like, let me get $1. And it was one time I got enough dollars in a day to go buy a pair of Jordans. And I did.
Holy shit.
Yep.
You can hustle.
Yeah. I was like, let me get $1.
And how do all these kids have dollars? I don't even know if I ever had $1 on me.
But they would scrounge it up and give it to you if they did. They'd find it. Yeah. And it's funny because one time I asked this guy, I was like, let me get $1. He said, I gave you $1 yesterday, Kellye. And I was like, oh, did you? My bad. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know.
Did you have any sort of relationship with your parents at all?
My mom, I did. Once my mom got clean, I moved with my mom. Okay. And she just was a much better parent. She tried to cook for us. She tried to be, present. She worked nights, which fucking sucked for my behavioral issues because I needed a parent to be at home at night and she wasn't. So it would be days where I would come in at 6:50 in the morning right before I knew she'd be home by 7:30. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was crazy. And I would be out all night doing shit.
What do you do
nothing,
all night?
Fucking nothing.
What are you doing?
Just at a friend's house whose parent didn't give a shit about them too. You know what I mean? Yep. Just lounging.
Just floating around.
Yeah, just doing nothing. Out stealing shit, being reckless and yeah.
Yeah, I'm always surprised at the stealing thing because I didn't have enough balls to steal stuff. I've talked about this before though. I did used to switch tags on shit.
That's stealing.
Yeah.
It's just a different form.
So I would justify it by saying I paid for it, but I paid like way less. Way less. I got one of my prom dresses for like $60 because I switched a tag.
That's crazy.
Isn't that terrible?
And I've never had the balls to do that.
Oh my God. See?
I was like, they'll catch me. So I'd rather just take the whole thing.
Yeah.
They won't catch me do this.
Neither one is better than the other. But
I remember when we got caught stealing. We were at JCPenney's.
Oh, that'd be the worst.
We were at JCPenney's and I had stole like and you know what? The shit I would steal was so fucking stupid. I stole like a bunch of Mickey Mouse panties. Like I had a whole bunch of Mickey Mouse panties when they caught me.
Of all the things,
right? I love Disney so much. Is that Disney? Yeah, I love Disney so much that I was like,
stealing Mickey Mouse.
I want to steal these Mickey Mouse. So I had a whole bunch of Mickey Mouse panties, and I remember us walking out of JCPenney's thinking we got it, right? It's like, man, we fucking got this shit, right? And this guy opened the door for us being nice. He was like, oh, here you go. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he was in plain clothes. And as soon as we walked out, he grabbed me and pushed me up against the wall and was like, what you got? Take it out now. And I was like, what? I was like, dude, get your hands off me. He was like, I know you've been stealing. We've been watching you. Take it out now. And I was like, what? He was like, come on. And he took us to like this little room, probably about as big as this booth.
Yep.
And just had us like strip basically and take all the shit out. And my mom had to come and pick me up. It was the fucking worst. It was the worst.
It sucks getting caught.
It does. I got fired from McDonald's because this dude on some tag switching shit. See, I've been fucking scorned by tag switching. So this guy, it was a I think it might have been a North Face coat. It was like a $300 coat, and he sold it to me for $60. He worked there. And he gave it to me for $60. And they came down to my McDonald's. They came to my job and everything and was like, we need the coat back. And like the McDonald's manager sat down with the manager from, I think it was JCPenney's. It was the same store. Yeah. And they sat down. It was so easy to steal from them. I guess it wasn't really. And so they sat down with my manager and had the whole conversation. Like, we have her on video if you want to see the video. And they fucking fired me.
But didn't you somebody else steal it and sell it to you?
He got fired too. We both got fired.
Damn.
We both got fired because it was like they knew that we knew each other and we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a team going.
Yeah. So we both got fired. And it sucked. I wasn't even old enough to work at McDonald's. I was only 15. I had lied on my application and said I was 16.
Whole bunch of mess over
Whole
there.
bunch of shit. Just constant.
What was your first job after McDonald's?
Rally's hamburger.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Rally's hamburger in South Holland.
I wish I would have known you back in that, because it just would be funny to like know you as that kid and then re-meet you like 15 years later and be like, holy shit.
So many people see me today and they're like, Kellye Howard? Kellye, you alive? You're not in jail? Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like an angel or a unicorn when they see me. It's like, what are you doing here?
When you get your first like big like Netflix or HBO special, you'll have to like tell everybody that you stole $1 from to come and be the front row of the audience.
Yeah.
And like hand them $1.
Back dollars. I know. If I ever took $1 from you in high school, please come to this show.
Special. I'm so sorry. I'm going to give you your $1 back plus interest or something.
Plus interest. Yeah. I've forgiven myself for a lot of that stuff because you just don't know. You know what I mean? You just don't. You think what you're doing makes sense. You think you know all the right answers. You know, like even when my brother was a trickster. He was a drug dealer and he would rob from drug dealers. Actually, he would steal from drug dealers, which is probably why he killed himself, because he thought that he had choked his girlfriend and he thought that she was dead. But she wasn't. She had just passed out or whatever, right? And so he kept like trying to wake her up and she wasn't waking up. And so then he hung himself. And when she came to, she noticed that he had hung himself. And at that point, it was too late because she was so small. She couldn't like get him off of the thing. She couldn't lift him up. It was like
some Romeo and Juliet type of thing.
It's crazy. But the reason why is we all think that he was like, I won't go to jail. I cannot go to jail. Because if he would have went to jail, all the people he ever stole from or snitched on would have like fucking destroyed him. Like they would have tortured him first.
Oh, sure.
Before anything. But yeah, I remember him coming I worked at Foot Locker, and I'm hoping that the statute of limitations is way beyond at this point. But I worked at Foot Locker and he came in and got like $3,000 worth of shit on what I absolutely knew was not his fucking credit card. But I let him use it. I let him ring it up because he was buying me some shoes and my daughter some shoes and and so I let him do it anyway. And so I did a lot of shitty shit, man, like corrupt bullshit. I'm telling you, oh my God, it even hurts to talk about this on this podcast right now. Oh, my chest is burning. TSA, fucking don't pack anything valuable in your check bags.
Yeah. Nothing
valuable, because I used to also work for the Department of Homeland Security, and I promise you, niggas is stealing. I don't want to say niggas as in like a particular race of people, but just ignorant motherfuckers is stealing from there. I'm telling you, like, I know I was a part of the crew that would do it, and it still gets done. And they target certain bags, especially if you're coming from Asia. That is a huge one. Or if you're going to Asia.
Why?
Because Asians carry a lot of electronics and dumb shit in their bag, and a lot of Asian money, which is worth a lot of money here. And they don't even think about it. They just put it in their check bag because they're not going to need it.
That's why I always do carry-ons, dude.
Yep.
I don't like to check anything.
When I check shit, it's like my shirts that I'm selling.
Yeah.
Or bullshit that I know I don't need. You know what I mean? Like that I wouldn't value if someone took it.
Right.
But it's a real thing out there. And gosh. I know. I
hate, because I thank the Lord I've never had anything bad happen as far as my checked stuff. But I have a friend, and apparently it's a big thing flying through the UK.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
London Heathrow. I've heard a lot of theft stories coming through London Heathrow.
Yeah.
Because it's a hub for a lot of things. And it's usually people that have really nice bags. Note to you, don't buy nice luggage.
first of all, the luggage gets destroyed in check bag anyway.
But I just get like shitty cheap stuff from Amazon, and like nobody fucks with my stuff because it's like a weird orange bag. You know, it's like
a shit bag.
You have Louis Vuitton luggage. Somebody's going in your shit.
Somebody is going in your shit.
Take your shit. I had a friend who's a stylist. She styles a lot of big celebrities. Somebody went through and took like all her stuff in London Heathrow. Another friend of mine who's a producer, somebody like shopped in her luggage. Like they picked out, she had some vintage stuff in her luggage that her like favorite pieces.
Oh my God.
And she was like, she felt so violated because she was like, they literally went through and like shopped and like chose what they wanted out of my like, which is such a terrible.
That's exactly what we would do. We would open the bags up. We would like check bag. Like if we would notice, we would look on the screen and you could see. So if you could see a laptop on the screen, you could be like check bag, and you would call it because you have the right to call a check bag if you see something that you feel uncomfortable with. So we would always, and the thing is we would always try to work with the crew that we knew did the same thing. So we would try to get together. If they put us together, then we was probably going to do like a lot of stealing that day because everybody on the crew was involved. If they didn't put us together and they put us with like an old ass person that didn't really do it, then we would have to wait till they go on break or do something like that before we went into somebody's bag. Because we'd say check bag, and like an older person would be like, what do you see in that bag that needs to be checked? It's nothing in that bag needs to be checked. You know, and they would call us out on it. And I'd be like, you don't see that thing going up into that right here? You don't see, you know, and we would try to justify why we called it. Oh my God,
this is so terrifying.
It is. It really is. And then we'd open the bags and we'd see, you know, laptops or whatever it is we wanted, and we'd have a bin at the bottom, and we'd take it out and throw it in the bin, and it would be like a bin with our stuff, you know, like our coat or whatever, because we would usually keep our coats at the station, and we'd throw it in the bottom, and then we'd take it and put it in our bag, and like on lunch or something, go put it in our car, you know. But yeah, it was a fucked up thing.
Oh, that's so horrible.
It was so fucked up. I stole from Jules when I worked there. I would fucking say I just shouldn't work a regular job. Like that's what I came. That's what I came to the conclusion.
That's why you have to be a comedian.
Yeah, I have to be. I can't steal. You know. Yeah.
Anything.
I have no desire for other people's jokes. Like that's just.
You don't even need them.
Yeah, that's just like blah.
You have your own theft jokes.
Yeah. And so it's like, what the fuck? But I just don't. I don't know at what age it clicked for me. I think it was like 24, like age 24, when I was just like, this is not right. This is fucked up. And it just didn't feel good anymore. I think that's when like my moral compass kicked in, and I was like, Kellye, you gotta be a better person.
Yeah. I would hope that everybody's moral compass does kick in at some point. I mean, none of us are perfect. We're fucking people, but you know, I've even noticed with myself, like I feel like 10 years ago when I lived in Chicago and was starting comedy and all that stuff, was I the same person? I think at the core I was, but I've changed a lot in 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everybody should be
rightfully
changing a lot.
So, yeah.
And when I meet people that think that they are exactly who they were, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And why would you want to be?
Why would you want to be? Exciting.
Yeah. And I think once you get out and get exposed to other stuff, like I went to the military, which is what I really think changed me.
Yeah.
Going to the Air Force and just learning how, I think about I don't remember exactly what it was, and I'm pretty sure I can look it up, but I know that some of our things for our creed was like integrity, right? And service before self and things like that. And so just having that stuff embedded in my head, I started to really look at things differently, like, oh shit. And I didn't even know what integrity was. Like I had to look up what integrity meant. I seriously did not know what it meant.
Yeah.
And that I know a lot of people judge like kids that are a certain way, or people that adults that are even a certain way, and you really have to know that if they don't see a difference, if they don't see anything that has shown them something outside of what they've learned, they really just don't know.
Yeah.
It's really just oblivious to them. Like I was raised in a household of drug dealers and drug users, so niggas was stealing from each other left and right. You know what I mean?
It was just what you knew.
It was what I saw. It was what I knew. And you get shit stolen from, or shiesty deals will be happening in the alley between the police, which is why I don't fear the police. A lot of people, my husband like is terrified of the police. Me, I don't give a fuck. I feel like all police are pretty much corrupt because I saw it growing up. I saw these police pull up to my drug dealer cousins and get they cut and be out there shooting a breeze, and crackheads walking up, getting they shit right in front of the police. You know what I mean? It's like I saw this shit. So for me to think anything other when I look at a police officer, to me, it's just not realistic. I'm like, bro, you're no better. I'm pretty sure you're no better.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's just weird. I don't know. It's, yeah. I think at a certain age, everybody.
Something's got to kick in.
It's if you've been exposed. Some people don't leave their space. You know what I mean? Some people are like raised in that neighborhood and they literally never leave that neighborhood, which I try to keep in mind when I go and travel to certain places and I meet people that are like, oh no, I've never been out of, Huckafuck, Indiana. I've been here my whole life.
And I'm like, to Hucklefuck, Indiana.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so you're a Hucklefucker. Cool. I'm not gonna even try to, relate to you on a city level because you don't understand that mentality.
Yeah.
I even noticed when I do certain jokes, like this weekend when I was in Alabama, certain jokes that I did not go over the same way just because certain people can't conceptualize.
They had never left.
Yeah, they've never left. A dude was like, where are my Chick-fil-A lovers? And literally the entire fucking audience screamed and yelled and clapped. And I was like, oh, okay. You guys are in support of some shit that I just can't even possibly think about supporting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's because of where I live and what I've seen and what I know versus they don't know.
Well, and
that.
we travel a lot. And like I said, we're exposed to all these really interesting, fascinating, funny people. And so like our breadth of knowledge and understanding of the world is just different than somebody who's going to stay in Alabama and never leave. Exactly. It's just, and you have to understand that. That's another thing that helps us as people. Like if you just are willing to understand and learn something from these people, right? If you're just willing to have that there, I think that we can connect with anyone. Exactly. It's when we're not willing, when we're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And we have that judgment because of who they are and where they are and how they've never left. That's when the tension and the anger and stress and problem arises. Well, and I was talking about this with Joe Kilgallen yesterday as well. We obviously we hung out in the fucking comedy club for 6 hours. So of course we talked about everything and anything, but I was basically saying that when I meet people, like in a one-on-one situation, it is rare that I don't like somebody.
Yeah.
Because if in a one-on-one situation, you have to be responsible for only the person across from you.
Yeah.
And we can all find a way to like connect and get along over something. So in a singular situation, I've never really had an issue with somebody. It's usually in a bigger setting where like
somebody's trying to prove something.
Yeah, or somebody's trying to act out or whatever it is. So, I feel like 98% of the people that I meet, I enjoy for some reason in that moment. Mm-hmm. So, and this is what I said to Joe.
That's what makes you so beautiful.
Somebody else, if somebody doesn't like me, I know it's them.
Yeah.
Like it's your fucking fault.
So you're not going to be my 2% of people I don't fuck with. That's on you.
If you think that I'm a bad person, then that's your fault.
Yeah. That's very possible. I mean, it is deflection. I really do think that's true too, because you're such a sweet person. Like when you first meet you, you're just so lively and ready to like be there and talk and be involved and engaged. And when you meet somebody like that, how do you not like them unless you don't like yourself?
Exactly. And same with you. And I feel like, we do.
Oh no, I can meet somebody and be a bitch out the gate though. I'm not as like
we all have that in us.
Yeah, it depends on the day with me. I'm pretty good like 6 out of the 7 days, but if you get me on that 7th day, depends on how, what side of the bed
That's why God rested on the 7th day.
Exactly.
Because the 7th day, you're not supposed to fuck with nobody.
You're not supposed to come outside on the 7th day. That is a no outside day for me.
How long were you in the military?
4 years.
And then when did you start doing comedy? Was it shortly after that or during your military time?
Well, I was performing just within my like space all the time, like just joking and cracking jokes and talking shit and catting on people, if you know what that is. So, or joning, some people call it, or whatever. And people just were like, God, you're so funny, Kellye, you're so funny. And then when I got hired at TSA, they were just like, you're so funny. And so I've always kind of been a comedian. I didn't take the leap to do it until somebody told me that I should do stand-up. And they were like, you should really try it. And that was in 2006. 2004. Okay. That was in 2004.
Damn.
Yeah.
So what, you're 15 years about?
No, I'm at 13 because that happened in 2004 and I did stand up one time.
And then didn't.
And then I didn't do it again. I didn't do it again for 2 years. And then in 2006 is when I was like, oh, I kind of like that stand-up thing I did. let me try that.
Try that again.
Let me try that again. And then that's when I got serious about it. Yeah.
And you started it all here in the Chicagoland area, right?
For the most part. So in 2004, I did stand up at Damon Williams had a room at the Holiday Inn in Matson.
Okay.
I did the show, did great. I got half of a standing ovation. It was my first show. Yeah.
Damn, girl.
No, don't say damn. Half that side of the room was all the people I invited. So that was who was there. They were all there for me. It really was. It was all my people. And so I got like half a standing ovation. And then the next show, he invited me to do a show like a week later and was like, yo, you were very funny. I'll pay you $30. And he paid me $30 to do this next show the next week. And I was like, I'm supposed to be fucking famous. And I moved to LA. I transferred my job from TSA. I didn't know you lived there for a minute. God, yeah. 2004 to 2006. I transferred my job at the TSA from Midway to LAX. I fucking like packed up my shit. I was like, Mom, I'm moving to LA. I need you to keep my daughter for the first year so I can get settled, send her down when I'm ready, and I went down there and did not do a lick of fucking stand up. I was in beautiful ass LA. The weather, I had never lived outside of Chicago, outside of the military.
Shit.
I was like, what the fuck, stand up? I'm gonna be out here living my best life.
Yep.
I'm 24 making, $45,000 a year, like I got a nice ass car. Like I'm living my best life.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And in 2006, Pauly Shore had this thing called remember Minding the Store?
Yes.
So he had an episode called The Hot Girls of Comedy, and he did like a cattle call for all the stand-ups in Chicago. I mean, in LA. This is when I met Gabrielle Dennis too. I don't know if you know her.
No,
she played Whitney on the Bobby Brown story.
Okay. I knew I recognized the name, but I couldn't think of where.
So me and her were in line together, right? Notice I'd only done stand up twice in 2004. All right, it's 2006 now. I'm standing in line with her and we're talking, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so nervous." She was like, "I did some stand up, back in the day, but I haven't really like done it, and I'm just trying to get my set together." And I was like, "Girl, just go in there and just let me tell you how to do this." And I'm trying to give her pointers on how to be a stand up. My two
You're
times
like,
in,
I got this.
I was like, we are professionals, right? I was like, this ain't shit for us, but that confidence got us somewhere because we both got booked.
Yeah.
We both got booked on that TBS show. I got paid $760 to do 5 minutes of stand up on fucking Minding the Store on TBS. It was my first credit, and
That's insane.
I did stand up. It was shit. It was such shit stand up. I didn't know how to do stand up.
I gotta find this episode.
Please, I hope they burned it. It doesn't matter because I never aired. So when they actually aired the episode, all you saw at the end was me waving when he brought all of the female stand-ups on stage together.
Gotcha.
They had cut my set completely out, which was good. I'm so glad that never made it onto the air.
You got the credit, you got the money.
I got the credit, I got the money.
Known for the bad stand-up.
Oh God. It's like watching an open micer. You know what I mean? Like a first time open micer dude.
I can't imagine my third time being on stage having it filmed for TV. Are you fucking kidding?
It was so trash. The only thing you had a minute to make Pauly Shore laugh. That's how you got on.
Yeah.
And that's simple for me. Like I was able to make him laugh in a minute.
Yeah.
And so he booked me, shit set, and then after I saw that it didn't air, I was in LA when I saw it, and I shot it, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I can do this. I think I could really be a funny comedian, but I can't do it in LA. I was like, LA is not the place for me to learn how to work this. For one, I don't have a babysitter.
Yeah.
So I can go out and do this every night. You know what I mean? Like I need the support. I was like, and for two, I just don't see myself really forming the set I would want to see come to fruition in LA. I think that Chicago's a better market for me to really build
and
that.
And for your personality.
For my personality, Chicago's a better market. And so I moved back to Chicago in 2006 and hit the ground running. June of 2006, June 30th was my first show in Chicago, and I've been doing it ever since.
Fuck yeah.
Like even when I had my daughter and she was in the hospital, I would be at the hospital Monday through Friday at the Ronald McDonald House, and then I would drive down Friday night. I would do shows in Chicago Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I would drive back up first thing Monday morning to get there before rounds.
Oh my gosh.
So I never stopped. I've never stopped.
Since then.
Even when I was pregnant, I was 6 months pregnant in Korea doing shows for the troops. Like I've never stopped since then.
Shit. What is the highlight of your career, you would say? Like if you were to pick like your favorite moment? I know it's hard to do.
I have two. I have two favorite moments.
Great.
One, when I met Bernie Mac at
I always wanted to meet that motherfucker.
Yeah, I met Bernie Mac.
I never got to.
But it was unconventional where I met him at. I met him at the nail shop. We went to the same nail tech lady.
No way.
And so I'm just sitting there under the dryer getting my nails dry. He walks in and I'm like, that's Bernie Mac. It's fucking Bernie Mac. It's Bernie Mac. Oh my God. And I started freaking out. So I run to the car. I immediately get my headshot, my DVD. And I was like such a marketing beast that I had a pen with my name on it that said, laughter takes the pain away. Do yourself a favor and laugh with me today. And it had my phone number, book me under it. So I had like a actual writing pen.
Yeah.
I had a DVD. I had my business card. And then I had my headshot. And I always kept this with me, right?
You had a real press kit.
I had a press kit, a physical press kit. Yeah. And so I come back in with my press kit. I run up to him and I'm like, Bernie Mac, oh my God, I'm a stand-up comedian. And oh my God, I want you to have this. I want you to take a look at my footage. And then he just went off on me. He's like, that's what's wrong with you motherfucking new comedians. You want somebody to look at your shit. Don't nobody want your shit. Y'all always talking about somebody stealing your shit. Nobody want, and I'm doing a terrible Bernie Mac impression, by the way, for the listeners. But I am murdering his legacy right now. But he like cursed me out and was talking about how new comedians always say that somebody stole our shit and that older comedians don't want their shit and blah, blah. And so after he cursed me out, I sat next to him and he spent the next like 45 minutes to an hour talking to me about comedy, about the industry, just his nails were dry. It was no reason for him to be there. He was literally just taking the time to talk to me. And he told me that I was going to make it. He said, you know what? He said, it's something about you. He said, I see it in your eyes. I see it. And he said, you're going to make it. You're going to do big things. And
that like gave me chills.
And I was like, oh my God. And it just made me, and then he gave me his number and it was like, we're going to, connect. He was moving back to Chicago to do more stuff in Chicago. And he fucking died that same year, like 3 months later. And I bawled. I was so sad. And let me tell you how amazing of a person he was. I came back 2 weeks later to get my nails done like I usually do. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I got there, Kim was like, oh, Kellye. And this is so racist for me to make her sound like that, but whatever. She's like, Kellye, Bernie, he left something for you. And he had left my daughter, because she was in there with me. He left her a clock from the Bernie Mac show and a signed autographed picture saying, to Faith, live your best life or go be great or something. I forgot what exactly he said. And it's framed in her room.
Oh
when I get home, I can take a picture of it and fucking send it to you.
Send it to me. Oh my God.
It's amazing like how caring he was. And that was 2 weeks late. Like I came back and he came. So that means he left
and thought about you.
And came back to give her that. And I was just like, wow. So that was the first one.
That's amazing.
And that wasn't even really in my career. That's just somebody that inspired me.
I mean, because to have somebody that's legendary like that look at you and like correct you a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that was like a correction. And then to tell you you're going to make it.
And he still didn't take my packet.
That's fucking, that's so cool.
Yeah. And then I'm really good friends with his daughter now. Like we went out to eat. I'm really good friends with her. I've done like shows for the Bernie Mac Foundation. Like I really do love his daughter. She's a beautiful spirit. And I think she lives in LA now. And then my second one was I performed at the Hollywood Improv. I was trying to work my last comic standing set because I was going up on there, and Dion Cole had got me a spot. Shout out to Dion. He's also an amazing guy, an amazing comedian. And so I was performing there, and I was sitting down, and I was on the list to go up. Because Dion had texted D-Ray and was like, put her up. She's from Chicago. She working her last comic standing set. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there and then Dave Chappelle walk in and I'm like, well, that's it. I'm not going up now. You know what I mean? Because when you see big names like that walk in, you know that the little guys on the list gets shoved to the side. It's all about this big name. And so I'm like, fuck, I'm probably not going to go up now. And then I'm sitting there and he was like, all right, y'all, this next comic that's coming to the stage, y'all going to love her. She's from my hometown. Give it up for Kellye. And he brings me up and I'm like, oh shit. And now I have to perform in front of fucking Dave Chappelle, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, Kellye, just work your set. Just work your last comic set, right? And so I worked this 5 minutes and I do my thing and I get off stage and I did really well.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and now I'm like not making eye contact with Dave Chappelle on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I don't want to look over and get his disapproval. And so I'm like this the whole time. And then my friend that was sitting right here tapped me and she's like pointing. And I'm like, what? She's like, and I look. And then Dave was like this. and he thumbs up me, and I was like, oh my God, and he just shook his head.
You just got the approval from Chappelle.
Right, and I was like, oh my God. And so then after that, I walked up to him and I took I was like, hey, do you mind if we take a picture? And he was like, yeah, man. He said, you were really great up there. He was like, really great. He said, and I heard you doing Last Comic Standing. He was like, let me just tell you something. He said, don't let them damn competition shows get you discouraged. He said, no matter what happened, that shit is all politics. Don't even let it stress you out. He said, just keep doing what you're doing, girl. You said you're doing some good shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
You had two legends.
Oh my God.
Give you their stamp of approval.
I was like, so cool. That right there was just like so amazing to me. And so those are probably like the two biggest moments in my career where I'm like, wow. Yeah.
And imagine what in the future when that's you doing that for somebody,
Oh my God.
It's cool to see that could be passed on.
And I try to do that. Like when I see comics that are really funny, like younger female comics or even guys, I'll tell them, I'll be like, yo, you're a great writer. Like keep writing. You're really good. I was like, it's freaking amazing. I love this joke. I love that joke. Here's a tag for that joke. And I try to do that.
People should be doing that. Like,
gosh, yeah.
The community. And I do feel like maybe it's because everything in politics is like so fucking messy right now that comedy has been even more of a bond, like everybody's bonding more.
Yeah.
I feel like everywhere I go, like all these, like when I go to festivals and stuff, like everybody's got, we all have so much fun together. I feel like for the most part, everybody's really supportive of each other. There's not a lot of like shit talking, or if it is, it's just stupid and minor. And that makes me really proud of comedy.
Yeah. Plus I think we're all starting to understand that there is no lane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we don't have to all crowd in like we're running a fucking marathon and stay on the same strip. We can run free in the grass and in the park and then we can go wherever and have fun and still be just as great on our own individual levels.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be a competition.
There's
it doesn't have to be a hate. There's space for everyone. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own niche. Everybody has their thing where he's like, oh, I like Natasha for this, but I also like Kellye for this. And they're both women. They're both comedians, but neither one of them are making me feel more impressed or less impressed. They're both good. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a beautiful thing that we are being more supportive of one another, because it's pointless not to be. It's a fucking literal waste of time
and energy
in space, which is what my podcast Be Less Petty
go ahead and we're gonna wrap this up, but go ahead and plug your podcast and your social media and all that. And what do you have coming up? This episode is going to air 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow.
So with that being said, I'm not going to try to think too hard. I'm just going to tell you to go to KellyeHoward.com, which is KellyeHoward.com. So like Kanye, it's Kellye. That's how I spell my name. Go to KellyeHoward.com. There you can also find out about my podcast, but my podcast is Be Less Petty. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and wherever else you listen to a podcast. It's all about, last season was Be Less Petty about relationships. I had my husband on as a co-host, and we got really deep on some crazy shit like infidelity and sex issues. We had a sex therapist on. We had a relationship coach. I mean, it was pretty powerful information. And then I have a YouTube channel called Be Less Petty TV, where I teach you basically how to be less petty with your time, space, and energy, having been through all of the things and many more that you've heard here on the podcast. I personally share my travel, my journeys with the world, and how I've learned to deal with all of the tragedies and ups and downs that I've had to face via that channel. So that's pretty much me.
Fuck yeah. And you can find me at NPH Comedy, Natasha Pearl Hansen, the female Neil Patrick Harris. You can follow the podcast at Future Role Model on Instagram or at Role Model Pod on Twitter. You can follow the Moxy Hotel at Moxy Hotel Chicago, which they're so thankfully letting us podcast out of today here in the Windy City. Follow my comedy pop-up network, my podcast network at Comedy Pop-Up or at CPU Podcasts. And anything else you want to plug, girl?
I guess I forgot to plug my Instagram. It's just my name, though. It's just Kellye Howard. Twitter is just Kellye Howard. I have an Instagram for Be Less Petty. It's called Be Less Petty. It's just everything is either Be Less Petty or Kellye Howard. KellyeHoward.
Look it all up.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks?
Closing remarks. Hey, you know what? I've been this quote has been ruminating in my head. And I don't know if I made it up. I don't think I did. I may have read it in like a book and I just can't pinpoint who it was. But do not allow yourself to be limited by the perceptions of someone else.